Is Phoenix heading for a glut of housing inventory due to new construction? That's what we're going to talk about today, you guys. Thank you for joining me. I'm Caitlin McKegg. I'm a real estate broker here in Phoenix, Arizona. I've been hearing from a lot of you that all of the information that I've been sharing has not taken into consideration new construction, and that is a fair point to look at. It's difficult to get all the data that is really showing true trends for new construction, but I was able to get my hands on some information about permits pulled in the Phoenix metro area and new home sales as well. So we're going to dive into that and look at that today. So if you're new here, consider subscribing so you can be part of our community. I go through real estate information every week. So if this is helpful to you, give me a like and consider subscribing. So let's talk about single family permits. So this is for new construction in the Phoenix metro area. This is permits that builders are pulling in order to build new homes. And then those homes are sold to home buyers, obviously. So this goes back to 2017. This is on a monthly basis. So looking at 2022, we see 3841 being kind of a standout here. This was last March. That's the number of permits builders were pulling. And then since then, it totally tapered off, which is very reassuring because the market started to cool quite a bit. So obviously builders reacted to that and stopped pulling permits. So they weren't going to continue to build without the demand and with all this uncertainty in the market. So I love to see that because we did not see that in 2005, 2006. As a matter of fact, let's look back at those years while we're here. That's 2007. Let's do 05 and 06. So yeah, not good. The highest number of permits, it looks like, was 5188. Keep in mind, our population was much smaller at that time as well. So this was a way oversupply of permits being pulled and, of homes going to be constructed. And then as we got into 2007, everything went down, and obviously we know the story from there. So we aren't pulling as many permits as we did even in 2006, 2005, 2006, and we have a much larger population now, as I mentioned. So anyway, just for context, I wanted to share that. But if we look at these numbers through 2022, to make this easier, I just took an average of the number of permits being pulled per month. And so for that number came out to about 2,235. I'm going to reference this back in a second. So hold on to that number, but I'll remind you. So about 2,235 permits pulled per month in 2022 on average. Okay. So let's compare this to the number of sales that we had for new construction last year. So this is the same kind of graph. This is monthly home sales. I have it filtered for new home sales, and then we can look at 2022. Again, it's on a monthly basis. So I took the average of these as well. And that came out to about 1,950 per month. So 1,950 a month. Now, going back to the number of permits that were pulled last year, that was about 2,235. And then we had monthly sales of about 1,950. So more permits than the number of sales. Obviously, there is a lag. If you pull a permit in January of 2022, you're not selling that house in 2022. But looking at the past being kind of consistent the years prior, and not really having any access to data as far as which permit went to which sale. This is kind of the best that I can do at the moment to just kind of illustrate where we're at in terms of this absorption rate, right? So we have a delta of about 285 per month homes that permits were pulled for but did not sell, essentially. Again, keep in mind that there's a lag there as well. So that's not truly cut and dry numbers, but generally. So let's look at 2017 because 2017 was a little bit more of a normal year. We were starting to get into a seller's market a bit, but things were not the 2020, 2022 world that we have seen in the last couple of years. So If we go back to the number of permits pulled in 2017, definitely a little bit lower. You can see that just based on these bars here. But if we look at the average, I took average on this as well. It was about 1704 permits per month throughout 2017. And then let's look at the sales. In 2017, same thing, average on a monthly basis. That came out to about 1543 sales per month on average. So there we have a difference of about 161 per month. Now, looking at 2022, we had a difference of about 285 per month. So definitely more in 2022 in terms of the number of permits that were pulled versus the number of homes that actually sold. But just doesn't seem like that is very alarming. I'm not feeling a lot of red flags from that number. It just doesn't seem like an oversupply. Also, looking at the fact that builders totally backed off the number of permits that they were pulling once the market started to adjust, gives me a little bit of comfort that we're not continuing to just like blindly overbuild here. So another way we can look at this is on an annual basis. So I was able to find that information as well. Single family permits annual counts. So in 2022, builders pulled about 26,800 annual permits. The year before, 34,500 in 2021. We can also look at the annual home sales, so 23,000 and 24,000 over the last 2 years. So it's showing the same trend, obviously, that the number of permits has exceeded the number of new home sales. But again, it's really not by a drastic amount. We can also look at just trends as far as how the year has been progressing and comparing year over year. So this is year to date number of permits, and we're at about 1,102 in 2023. Last year at this time, we were almost at 3,000. The year before, we were at 2,600. The year before, 2,400. So this number of permits that has been pulled so far this year is drastically lower. I mean, going all the way back to about 2016, of 2015 was the last time we saw fewer permits pulled in January than what we've done today. So again, I'm just not seeing a lot of red flags in terms of a glut of housing inventory. All of the permits that were pulled last year and the year before, yes, there is more than what the actual new home sales rates were, but I'm just not seeing the fact that we're having so many that just will never sell. Now, multifamily is a little bit of a different story. If we look at the multifamily permits that have been pulled, we're at like a historical high that we've never seen before of 20,000 permits for multifamily construction last year. And then 16,000 the year before, 14,000 the year before. If we go back to 2018, which was not even that long ago, we've more than doubled the number of multifamily permits. So what is this going to affect? The rental market, right? So we're likely going to see all of these multifamily units being built for rent, and then our rental supply will increase, therefore likely bringing down rental rates. So that's something to keep an eye out on if you're an investor planning to invest in Phoenix, or if you are a renter, that's good news. You're likely to have some more options, some brand new shiny options, I might add, at some more palatable prices. So we'll see how long it takes to turn around these multifamily units that are being built, but certainly that's something on the horizon. Now, if we go back to the number of single family permits that have been pulled recently, so looking at December, 997 is a really low number. If you remember when we looked back all the way to 2015, that was the last time we saw anything under 1,000 on a monthly basis. And then we've also so far this year seen only about 1,100 single family permits being pulled. So this level is down pretty significantly compared to what we have seen in the past, but our new home closings are only down about 5%. And so, according to the Cromford report, they actually have some concerns that we're not building enough housing and we may get stuck in a situation where we have an undersupply of housing and not able to fill that need. Anecdotally speaking, as I talk with builders, I'm not hearing a lot about cancellations any longer. They are giving some good incentives, but they're not being quite as generous as they were when there was so much uncertainty at the end of last year. Rather, they're being a little bit firmer on prices, and when they get cancellations, they tend to relist that quick move-in home for a higher amount than what it actually was under contract for before. In addition to that, when I've made calls for clients to find out what options there are as far as new construction, lots available, or certain floor plans available for quick move-ins, I've been surprised to see that there isn't the number of choices I would expect. Most of the time, there's maybe one quick move-in that meets my client's needs, or there aren't any. There's definitely some lots available, but you're waiting about a year to get into those. So in my experience, the landscape of new construction right now is still a little tight. Now, again, that's anecdotally speaking, but in looking at these numbers, in addition to that, I'm not seeing major red flags or concerns. On a national level, there may be more areas that have been overbuilding or pulling more permits, not seeing as many sales, but here in Phoenix, these numbers just don't seem to me to be that scary. But if you have a source of information that is sharing something differently, I'd love to hear from you. I'm going to continue to look into this information, and if I can share anything else that will be helpful to understand what's going on with new construction, I'll be sharing on this channel. So thanks you guys for joining me. Check the description below for any links that might be helpful, or if you want to talk about your situation, you can set up a time for a discovery call with me. I'll be back next week with another Monday Market Update. I'm Caitlin McKegg with the Desert Dreamers team.